You can visit Pity City, but you cannot move in. This was one of the phrases that one of my dear friend and previous coworker who I used to work with, I remember her saying this one time. So we worked for a company together. We worked in leadership development, and I don't remember exactly why she said it. She wasn't saying it to me necessarily. I think we were prepping for a class, so we helped design different leadership development trainings, and we were talking about different things. And I just remember her saying this phrase, and it has been years now that it has stuck with me. You can visit Pity City, but you can't move in. And the amount of times, and if you're listening, you know who you are who said this to me, the amount of times that I have now thought of this phrase or said it or used it, I just love it. Like, you can visit Pity City, but you can't move in. Because how often when things happen to us, do we pack up our bags and move into Pity City? Woe is me. Why is everything happening to me? Why is it always me? How can this, right? And it's normal and it's natural and it makes sense when I always say life is lifing. And I actually talk to my clients a lot about this, because one of the tools that I use with my clients, particularly my leadership clients, is energy leadership. It's an assessment, it's an attitudinal assessment, and it's really assessing your perspective, your behavior, your lens of how you view things. And level 1, so there's 7 different levels that we talk about, and 7, we say like the 7 different levels of leadership, the 7 different like kind of perspectives, and it helps us to become more conscious and aware of our thinking and our feelings and how that's affecting our actions and results. Okay, so I'm giving you this context for a reason. So one of the levels is level 1, and level 1 is where we are kind of the victim, like we are at the effect of everything happening to us. And so with all of this knowledge and I'm going to come back to that, but with all this knowledge and all this information, even as somebody like myself who has surrounded by personal development, who attended all the conferences, who reads the book, who listens to the podcast, who's certified in energy leadership, which teaches us about our thoughts and our feelings on how that affects our results, who utilizes and is trained in mental fitness and neuroscience and all the things, okay? I still try to move into Pity City. And I want to talk a little bit about, what's been going on in my world today. We actually missed an episode for the first time ever. I'm just going to call it out, because if you were like trying to check out the episode and it wasn't there, I apologize. For the first time ever since I started the podcast, we missed an episode. And I almost missed another episode. And here's the thing is, like, life will go on. Hopefully you'll all keep coming back, because we missed 1 week of episodes because life was lifing. And I was like, you know what, but I don't want to, like, it's okay to take a pause on the podcast and things like that, but I don't want to. I love this. And I love being real with you and being honest with you and teaching you things and bringing guests on. And I love when I get messages from people saying like, oh, that message really resonated with me, or hey, like, can you come speak to our group because we want to talk about, fill in the blank topic. And I absolutely love it. And so for me, when I felt the resistance of like, oh, there's just so much life happening right now, and I don't know if I have the capacity or the energy for this thing, I had to make that choice. And I was like, you know what, we're going to come on and we're going to do this thing. And if you follow me on social media, you have a little bit of an indication. I'm not going to dive into all the details today, but there's a lot of stuff going on, right? And so the thing is and one other thing I always share, especially with my clients who are speakers, I always say, like, if you're going to share a story or something going on to you, and I heard this from someone else. I'm going to misquote if I say who it was, but I remember hearing a speaker one time share this, and I've heard it a few different ways, so I don't necessarily give credit to the exact person because I've heard it said a few ways, but like when you're going to share part of your story or you're going to share something that's happening, share it when it's a scar and not like an open wound, right? And I tell my clients that who are getting more into speaking, let's say like my entrepreneurs who want to do more speaking and telling their story. And we always talk about that. Like when you're deciding what you're going to talk about, we got to make sure that it's a scar and it's not like an open wound still, because it's hard for you to bring people through the other side. And I would say some of the things going on in my world right now are still kind of open, right? They're not scars yet. And so we're not necessarily going to share all the things, but I have some health things going on. I'm going to need some surgery. So probably going to be kind of batching podcast episodes because it's on my face. And so those of you who watch the videos and stuff, not sure I want to record. So we're going to get some episodes ready for you. We have some amazing guests coming up as well that we'll be able to get recorded, hopefully, so that we can keep showing up for you. And of course, when I'm through the other side, we have a bunch of big house stuff going on that's requiring a lot of time and attention and energy, and just a lot of unexpected things, right? Like I always say, like, life is lifing. And I have had so many clients and friends and things where I'm just like, gosh, this year is an interesting year. I feel like for business, for people's lives, we're just having a chat here, right? So that's what's coming up for me. So I'll definitely share more. I'm pretty open about our journey and things that have happened. And this is another one that we will be sharing more about, but not all the details yet. But I definitely want to be able to share with you and teach you and lessons. And I always say all these things add to my story. I give a talk. One of my most requested talks is around mindset, and it's called Unboxing Potential. Now it rebranded this year, and it's really around mindset, how to make your mind work for you. It's about confidence and resilience, and I'm giving that talk a couple times coming up here. And it's ideal for a lot of different audiences. I've given it to small business and entrepreneur groups who are really looking for how can they work on their mindset and their resilience in building their business, as well as I'll be giving it to an organization soon around, and we blend confidence and mindset and resilience, and how can you take control of where you want to go and helping get yourself there using creating your vision and figuring out what could get in the way, including some of that mindset chatter that happens, and then setting the goals and taking the steps. And so again, as somebody who does this, I always have to go back to my own content and remember, and I have multiple stories kind of woven throughout that talk of things that have happened, my health journeys from the past, my husband's. I have some stories around trusting yourself. And in these moments when I say life is lifing, and I might be wanting to move into Pity City, it's just, I always kind of laugh and go, I'm going to have so many amazing more stories for the podcast and for my talks and for future more books coming out. So all these things, I know I'm kind of all over the place, but I just wanted to share a little bit of what was happening with you, as well as to give you that advice around, it's okay to give yourself. I gave myself almost 2 weeks of Pity City. Like I moved in, I was eating kind of whatever I wanted. I was like, yep, we're not going to plan out what we're eating. We're just going to eat what we want. We're going to feel what we need to feel. We're going to feel sorry for ourselves. We're going to do all this stuff. Like I was in Pity City, and I decided yesterday, I was like, okay, that's enough. I had enough of myself. I tend to have a positive mindset and really see not always a reason for things, but you can find a reason in the things. And I've talked about this a lot before, right? Is we can find a reason in the things, and that we don't always know. There's this old Chinese proverb that I'd read about in a book. And one of the things that he says is, who am I to say what is good and what is bad? And sometimes we don't really know until we look back. And there's that Steve Jobs quote where we can't connect the dots looking forward. We can only connect them looking back. And so I share all of this. I'm sharing all these things for myself, but also for you, because if you're in like that life is lifing phase right now, whether it's work or, professional things or personal things going on, or maybe both, to just know that at some point we will be able to look back and go, okay, I either learned this from this, or I'm here now because of that, right? And I'm so grateful for everything that I have learned and all of the certifications and trainings I have. And then I get to help clients through this, because it's always good reminders for me. Like we never are like stop learning this stuff. We never are so far through the other side that we're just like immune to things happening, right? And so I always share this too for just vulnerability, because I think a sign of leadership is to say, hey, I get it. I get it. Like if you listen to the podcast, or if you're a client of mine, or if you look at social media and you think like, oh wow, she's got it all figured out, she's got the business and whatever you might think, she's on stages, she's got all this stuff. It's like, no, like I have a lot of stuff happening too. And the thing is I really do lean on everything that I've learned to help get me through that. And I love being able to support clients through that as well, because I am so grateful to have the tools, right? I'm so grateful to have the tools and the training and the resources so that when I decide, like yesterday, I was like, okay, tomorrow I'm getting up, I'm getting back into my routine, I'm doing my good bedtime routine, I'm waking up in the morning, I'm getting my journaling in, I'm getting my workout in, I'm getting ready, I'm starting the day like I decided, and I have the tools to help me. And this isn't to say I'm not going to have moments now where it's like, oh gosh, I want to be in pity city again, but I have the tools to help me. And that's what I want to show up and help you with as well. And why I do the podcast and bring guests on is because I want to give you the tools as well to be able to do this. And so I know when I'm working with clients who we use this energy leadership assessment, like I said, it's the 7 levels, and it gives you a snapshot of how you show up when things are going well and how you show up in times of stress. And when I see a lot of that level 1 energy, which is, again, we feel the victim, we feel stuck. That's what I would say is the pity city, where it's like, oh, everything's happening. You're not really taking action or doing things differently because you feel stuck. And there's advantages and disadvantages to every level. And I had to remind myself of that too. Like when someone's in level 1, they're experiencing a lot of level 1. It can draw out sympathy from other people. And man, have I seen that. Like I have so many beautiful flowers in my house right now from family and friends who know that life was lifing and they reached out, or people sending messages. My assistant, who's amazing, is like offering to take more things on as we navigate stuff. Like level 1 can be really beneficial. And also, we don't want to stay there. And so like that's where I really started to connect that phrase that my friend and coworker had said once to the training and the resources I have now, where it's, we wouldn't want to stay there because we aren't taking action from there. Like it's okay to give yourself that time to do that. And sometimes we need that. And also, we can't live there. We can't stay in that energy because eventually, first of all, people will get, quite honestly, fatigued from always having to like support you through. Not that I'm saying our friends and family wouldn't be there, right? But think of that person who's just, everything is always the worst, or they're always negative. They're constantly complaining. They constantly feel like things are happening to them, but they're not doing anything differently. Because you know what? Sometimes I feel like life just keeps happening, but I'm not just gonna roll over to it, right? So that's really the difference. And so sometimes when we're in that level, it draws out sympathy from people, and sometimes that's what you need. So if you're trying to put on a happy face in a really hard moment, maybe what you do need is you need to feel those things, and you need to sit in it for a little bit. Again, whether personally or professionally, and like let someone know. And that allows you to be able to move on then. Sometimes we move into level 2, which level 2 is anger and frustration, which again makes complete sense if you're in a phase of life where you feel like you're getting punched across the face. Like it's okay to be angry. And again, it's not a level that we would want to stay in forever, because why would we want to walk around just like angry at everybody and everything, right? And so eventually, as you kind of work through these things, you can move through different levels of energy. And so, you know, I've had different times with my clients when they have had really hard things. And the first thing is just to give yourself grace and compassion and acknowledge and validate, like, it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel that. It makes sense you're feeling that way, given the fact that this happened and this happened, this happened. Like, that's a lot. And I'm talking to you right now and to myself. It's okay. That's a lot of things to navigate. Wow. Right? To just acknowledge that. And then sometimes what we do is we actually like sometimes even come up with like a date where we're like, okay, you're going to feel that, you're going to feel frustrated, or you're going to feel the effect of it, you're going to kind of just feel stuck. But by tomorrow at noon, we're moving on. We're taking a step. We're taking action, right? Sometimes with my clients, it's like when they can set that time where it's like, okay, allow yourself to feel it, and then give yourself like, all right, and now what? It's okay to feel that, and now what? And that's kind of what I felt like I did for myself, where I was like, okay, I'm feeling all this. I'm going to allow myself to do it. I'm going to give myself the permission to do it. And I know that I don't like that feeling of just being stuck in that. So now what, right? So I was like, okay, this is my point. This is when this is where things are turning. So hopefully that helps you as well. I know I've actually had multiple clients recently who they really did feel, you know, stuck, or even maybe it's like it might not even be like a big life thing, but it was a conversation they were hanging on. They felt like they messed up in a meeting. They felt like a recent client I had felt like she got yelled at, like didn't feel like she got yelled at. She actually got yelled at by somebody at work and was obviously upset about it and feeling, you know, really distraught about that. And so we talked through and needing to feel the emotions, and some of the things she talked about was like journaling, and we need to talk it out and all of that. And then sometimes it's like, okay, and then you need to set a point where you go, okay, now what? Now what do I want to do with this, right? So maybe that's the message you need. So I just wanted to hop on and share this with you, and thank you for your understanding and patience if you were wondering where a recent episode was. And I am committing to, again, pending crazy life things that could happen, and maybe there would be a delay in episodes, but we're going to try our very best to make sure we keep getting these out for you. Please keep showing up. Please let me know that you're listening, you're loving the episodes. What means the most to me is if you have not yet, if you could take 30 seconds. It takes 30 seconds to go on wherever you're listening and leave a rating or review. That really helps the episodes get out to more people, helps the message get out to more people. If you're on Apple Podcasts and you're listening, you just scroll on down, click the 5 stars if you feel that way, and then, you know, it takes a few seconds if you write a review about what you love around the podcast. That is really helpful. And before I had a podcast, I didn't know how important those ratings and reviews were for podcasts. So if you didn't know that, they're really important to make sure that the podcast can keep growing and get out there to people. So if you're on Apple Podcasts, you can do that. Also Spotify things, there's a place that you can just scroll and quick write, leave a rating and review. It would mean so much to me. It would add a little glimmer to my week if you'd be willing to do that. And here's your reminder. The lesson that I got from my friend that has stayed with me is that you can visit Pity City, but don't move in, right? Don't move into Pity City. Go beyond it. And I hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk soon.